it's interesting watching everybody introduce themselves. We could go around a room and everybody can say something different that they do that they didn't say the first time. I think everybody in this room, certainly the governor's involved in 1, 2, 3, 10 different things. This is a very active group in our community. We've got a brilliant community. We love our community, so we're excited to be here to talk about it. I want to talk about different things. First, I'll introduce our mayor, Chief Governor.
Thank you, Ray Marin. First of all, I'd just like to thank the governor for being here. I consider him a great friend to the city of Augusta. He has been over here time and time again, and it's great to have somebody in the governor's office with a vision for the city of Augusta and our community as a whole. And it's very exciting to me to be here today to talk about the T-SPLOST in particular. Being one of only 3 regions in the state to have passed it, I think we're in a very unique situation, particularly from an economic development perspective. I've shared with people that investment in businesses are going to go where you have the transportation infrastructure to support them. We will have that going forward here in our community. So I just thank everybody for coming, and I look forward to the discussion.
Don, where's
Don?
Yeah.
Sorry, goodbye.
I was supposed to turn your way.
Oh, you were? Hey, thank you, Governor, for being here today. It's really a pleasure to have you here to discuss the transportation infrastructure for what we have in this region, not just Richmond County, Columbia County, but the 13 counties that was involved in Region 7, the CSRA region. As I may have mentioned, that, with the passage of that particular bill that you and the legislators provided for us, to me, I think it gave the citizens an opportunity to not only have the vote, but to be able to provide the funds and identify the projects that would be worked on and that would be forthcoming for the future over the next 10 years. With that being said, what we wanted to do was just give you an idea of where we are today from the standpoint of the initial kickoff in January, and to let you know that that we are on track. And I believe Mike Doble, which you've met Mike, who is our administrator for the T-SPLOST program with the Georgia Department of Transportation. Mike's going to just highlight a few things for us, and then we'll come back with more information for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Grant. I'm Mike Dober again. I'm the administrator of the TIA program. Georgia DOT calls it TIA for Transportation Investment Act. We've got an acronym for it. We're 6 months into collections and 5 months into receiving revenues, and we've been very busy. We have met with the Citizen Review Panel, a lot of you here. We're coordinating with the local governments, a lot of the City of Augusta, Columbia County, as well as getting projects out the door. We're letting projects, we let projects last week at Georgia DOT, so I'm confident that we can move forward over the next 10 years and be successful with this program. So, thank you.
In addition to Mike with the Department of Transportation, we have with us Ada Lasson and Steve Castle, who is with the Augusta Richmond County Engineering Department. And they have a couple of projects they want to mention to you, Governor, and to just include the magnitude and the foresight that's been had by the people here as to the projects we're doing. So Steve, if you would please.
Yeah, absolutely. The Transportation Investment Act is about $300 million investment in transportation a year. But in addition to that, we've got another $115 million being invested by Georgia DOT in Highway 56 corridor. We've got the Bobby Jones corridor, which is under construction right now. It's a widening project. Winter Spring Road, as well as the Whitesboro Road project also. So these are in addition to the T-SPLOST dollars that are coming to the area. As far as the T-SPLOST itself, we're going to have about $100 million for the next 3 years in band one that we'll have in construction. A lot of that's currently under design, but 2016 will be less a significant portion of our T-SPLOST allocation. If you have any questions,
Thank you, Steve. And in regards to the map, Governor, you can see that there was no one particular area that was selected to do the projects in. The projects were spread out throughout the entire county and through this region, which he just identified 3 major projects for the Richmond County area. And now we have with us Steve Exley, who is with Columbia County, and he wants to talk a little bit about those.
Thank you, John. Good to say I was gonna say, we have a great work relationship with Augusta, so we'll actually share RNAs. Yeah, we have Columbia County, this is the Richmond County around here, Savannah River, and then the lake up here. And so, Columbia County has a lot of commuters. This is basically a large employment area in Augusta here, and Fort Worth. And so we just have a lot of people who spend a lot of time in vehicles. So we've had a lot of projects that we've been wanting to do for a while, and get a lot of cars and trailers and their down room. And so, Augusta has a very long list, but Columbia County is short. They're really big projects. So, really big in these corridors constructed. First one coming up is River Wash Parkway right here. So that's going to allow the commuters to get in and out of Augusta much faster. That's going to go out to bid later this year, and so it's going to be a big project. It's a total of 31 million, so it's a big job. Actually, that's 31 million, I believe, from TIA, and I think DOT is going to match it with 20 million. So, and then the next thing we really have coming up is we've started doing engineering and surveying on is flowing wells, and this is Augusta Road. This area in particular, we're experiencing a lot of growth. We got there's an interchange here, in between there's an interchange. So we've got a lot of schools popping up in here, just a high growth area. Subdivisions just going up like crazy. So we've got a real concentration of traffic coming in this area. So we're excited. We have some very innovative ideas that we're going to look to do at this interchange, at this intersection right up here. That I think our voters, which 2/3 voted against the TIA, but they call us all the time, ask us when we get the traffic crossed. I think they're going to be very pleased. Let's see if you have any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Governor, in addition to that, with the projects that are going on, these two counties, Richmond County and Columbia County, are considered as the major donors and the major recipients of the funds that are collected. So that's the reason for us concentrating on those two particular areas. In addition to that, we have McDuffie County as a donor, and there are only about 3 of the major donors within this region. But we're happy that we know that the outer counties will be coming to these particular locations to shop and do their business. In addition to that, it does take time and effort, and takes a lot of your own personal money when we have people that give volunteer time in regards to helping us with these particular projects and with this oversight that we have. And this review panel, they mentioned their names a moment ago, but I'm gonna highlight them once again. And that's Phil Wall, who's our chairman, James Kendrick, who is on that panel, Jamie Allfriend, who is on that panel, and Mark Ivey, who is on that panel. Those are the 4 attending here today. And Ben Tarbutton out of Sandersville is our 5th member. Those men are spending a lot of time assisting in making sure that these projects are delivered on time, on budget, and within the scope of the work that they were designed to be. So to me, that is the key to making this happen and to making the Department of Transportation, the state of Georgia, a shining light in this region. As far as Augusta, Richmond County, CSRA region, we feel like that you can go back to the rest of the state and say, see what this area is doing, and see how they have accomplished the things that they set out to do. And the effort of the citizens and of the volunteers of this area is certainly making this possible. So we wanted to enlighten you with this. We'll have some material and information that we can pass along to you to take back for you or your staff to review, and feel free to call on our mayor or myself or anyone in regards to these projects in Richmond County and Columbia County. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Raymond Brinson and to Sue Paul, and let them talk about the economic impact and the jobs that we're going to create for this area.
Sue? Well, Governor and members participating today, thank you again all for being here. We are going to have sort of a panel Q&A, but before I begin, it strikes me that in 21 days it will be the 1-year anniversary of our T-SPLOS. And so I just want to take a minute before we begin our discussion to really acknowledge the folks all in this room. It really is a reunion because everyone in here had a role to play with the passing of our T-SPLOS. And it really starts with Mr. Franklin. I remember in a coffee shop at Surrey Center about 6 months before the vote, meeting with Don, and he really helped educate our community on what the T-SPLOS could do for our community. And then from there, we really had a wonderful delegation behind us. I think we were one of the few areas in the state that had a delegation that was firmly behind this, and that was very helpful. As well as our mayor. I think for 6 months, every time he made a public appearance, he mentioned the T-SPLOS and was very much in support of that. And of course, our board of directors. In 25 years of chamber management, I've never been asked to advocate for a new sales tax. This was new territory for us, but we were successful, and we really believe in it. And because transportation drives population, it drives jobs, and I think that was the bottom line for our board of directors when they made the decision to endorse and support the T-SPLOS. We also had a wonderful coalition, and I want to point out that we had the Columbia County Chamber of Commerce, we had Augusta Tomorrow, the DDA, just a wonderful coalition of organizations in our community, and especially Phil Ball, who was with me at many Rotary, Kiwanis, everybody that would listen to us for 6 months to help educate the community, and obviously it paid off. So I just want to give everyone a round of applause. This is a wonderful way to get back together, especially with you here, and give ourselves a round of applause, please. When we looked at transportation, the Chamber began talking about transportation years ago, before T-SPLOS, the Transportation Investment Act, was even passed. Because business people understand transportation does drive jobs and drive population growth. And when we had the opportunity to look at the T-SPLOS, we really were interested in the projects that were really going to change the landscape. So that's where I want to start, is how does transportation change our community, really change our community. So I thought we would start with our mayor, because he was so involved and knows a lot of the projects. Dee, what do you think are some real game changer projects that we can look forward to?
To me, and I'll give you 2 examples. I'll tell you my game changer, and then I'll give you a real world example of what transportation means. We have over $150 million in TIA projects slated for our urban core. And I think if you look nationally as demographics go, your baby boomers and your millennials are flocking to the urban core. So I think having the infrastructure in place there is only going to help the local economy. It's going to help our downtown grow. But just from a real world perspective and the recruitment effort of Starbucks, we had not yet approved the T-SPLOS, but they were aware that it was a potential. And I do think that that was really something that played in favor for us versus the other finalist city. And I will share with you the day that it was passed, the next day, they were one of the first people that I know I contacted. I know a lot of local representatives did. That's a real world example of what transportation means to economic development.
Thanks, Steve. We have a bridge. We call it the 5th Street Bridge. It's a roadway now, but I know that Augusta Tomorrow, who's represented here by Monty and Nadia, have a master plan that was developed for our region. It actually goes across the river. And so when we look at the T-SPLOS projects, one of those projects is the 5th Street Bridge. And so I thought, Nadia, could you share a little bit about the Augusta Tomorrow Master Plan?
Yeah.
And how that will be accelerated through these projects?
The master plan is really developed under a public-private partnership. So it's not Augusta Tomorrow's, it belongs to the entire region. The plan focuses on the downtown core and North Augusta, recognizing that that is the engine that is going to drive the entire region. The 5th Street Bridge goes across the river, which is one of the greatest resources this area has. And development of that bridge, if we can do it as a pedestrian bridge, would then allow us to do more exciting development on the riverfront and start creating the excitement for downtown. Deke was referencing younger people want to come into town, they want things to be there, and these projects that we have for transportation for downtown will be an essential element of moving downtown. So we were very enthusiastic supporters.
Not part of the, when you look at transportation in general, and actually this project has been accomplished, but St. Sebastian Way was something that really supports our medical community, and that was a project, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that. I know it's a done project, but to make the point about transportation.
Well, it is, and it's very important to the medical facilities that are downtown, Governor, that you're so familiar with. And that is, it has accessibility to the hinterland of Richmond County and Augusta, as far as being able to bring people in, not only from the South Carolina side, but from the Columbia side, and from the areas that are important for these people to get to work and get back home on time. So with that project being accomplished, we see more of those being developed for the future for Richmond County and for the Columbia County area.
Moving in a slightly different direction, I want to talk a little bit about our major growth areas, our major job sectors. Tom, would you share a little bit about how transportation improvements impact Fort Gordon?
So we know, although it hasn't been officially announced yet, we know Fort Gordon is going to grow by over 5,000 over the next 36 to 48 months. And their biggest concern is how are they going to get people to the installation and in the gates? Right now, with sequestration and furloughs, they're having a challenge because they don't have enough gate guards to keep all the gates open. But the feeder networks going to the installation are critical because your growth areas are the other ends of all those lines out there. So that's why those projects are so critical, to get those folks to the installation. We're talking about that much of a population increase on the installation. We can't get them to work, that's a problem. So those projects are absolutely critical. That's the biggest concern they have about adding all the new missions that are coming to Fort Gordon, some of which we can talk about, some of which we can't, but the growth is significant to the point where, and with a large civilian population that's coming in, that's more houses, it's going to result in more schools. It's also going to contribute to your efforts to get more defense contractors to Georgia because they are lining up to come here by the busloads. So you're going to see some significant growth. In 8 years, you won't recognize Gordon Highway.
Which makes the point. Tammy, Columbia County, one of the fastest growing counties in Georgia. Where do you see Columbia County 10 years down the road?
More schools, more industry, much more retail, and with the announcement 2 weeks ago, Columbia County was named the 45th fastest growing county in the nation. Yeah. And so we've added about 7,000 new residents in 2 years, and growing over 38%, 35,000 new residents from 2000 to 2010. So if you take, we grew 35,000 residents in 10 years, and we've already grown 7,000 residents in 2 years. 10 years from now, you can see what the population boom would be, along with Fort Gordon. And then again, our major industries, like Georgia Regents University and Savannah Riverside, many of those individuals that work at those facilities live in Columbia County. So as those areas continue to grow, you'll see additional population growth.
So it does beg the question in terms of, I don't want to call it sprawl, but how do you see the T-SPLOST projects as helping to keep the region connected?
Definitely. Again, these 8 projects for Columbia County are the corridors to Augusta Richmond County. So that have been desperately needed for a long time. As someone who's lived in Columbia County since 1976, when everything was just 2 lanes and a lot of dirt roads, we have grown greatly. So again, this is very much a region, and it's a win-win for the region, no matter where someone works or where someone lives. And the 8 projects for Columbia County were desperately needed, and will continue to be a benefit for our area when they're developed.
Governor, we have a lot of corporate offices headquartered here, one of which is one of our premier manufacturers, EasyGo. And I thought it would be good if Kevin, if you wouldn't mind sharing what transportation does to help make you competitive?
Yeah, well, I was new to the board shortly before this T-SPLOST was voted on. And I was really excited to get behind it, and I was an advocate to our employee base and our vendors and whatnot. I think connectivity is the operative word there, because we've been in Augusta for 60 years, our entire existence. We're in South Augusta. When you look at our employee base, which in Augusta is roughly 800 or so employees, most of them are driving 25 to 30 minutes. We pull from Burke County, we pull from McDuffie County, a lot from Columbia County. So the projects that have been described to you today, will bring our employees to and from work more expeditiously, but it also allows me to better strong-arm our supply base to get closer to us. There's obvious business benefit from a logistics standpoint, but also the job growth that can come with that. Being able to advocate this region as one of the few who thinks enough of transportation past that is a huge feather in our cap, and has not yet brought the jobs, but I'm pretty confident that our supply base will continue to move closer to us and our crosstown competitor club car, because we use many of the same suppliers.
Thank you, Kevin. One of the main selling points, I believe, going back to the campaign for the T-SPLOST, was that we would be able to use it as an attraction tool. What community has a 10-year plan for transportation? How many? And so when we can demonstrate the improvements that are going to be made over a 10-year period, town with Blanchard and Calhoun, how does that impact your ability to recruit?
It makes it a lot easier, obviously. If people can get to where they work simpler, with less congestion and less drive time, it sure helps my business putting stores and houses on the ground. I'm one of those that gets really excited about the word growth for full board and SRS. And we like to spend our time and energies capitalizing on that growth. And so that sometimes we create some of those challenges, but on the other end, we're only responding to all the good things going on in our region. And, what this is going to bring to our area is very exciting to us.
And I think that goes also for the DDA. Cameron, I know that you just recently hired a consultant to support additional retail development. Is this something that you'll share with them and help them understand the improvements for downtown?
We will, and we've already started that process. We hired a retail strategies consultant firm to help kind of round out downtown. Downtown's pretty healthy. We've got high occupancy in law departments and single-family houses, very healthy work base, active work base downtown. We've been missing the retail piece, large chain clothing or restaurant or grocery store, kind of round out the whole downtown experience. And better access to the downtown area, better access for the consumers downtown is an important part of the retail strategies. And, they've been on the ground for us about 6 months now, and got a couple feelers out there, so we're hopeful that what we're missing will soon be here in downtown Augusta.
Governor Hill, thank you so much for your leadership on the expansion of the Savannah Port. We are very excited about what that can potentially do for our community, but for the state of Georgia. And I think that it would be interesting if anyone wants to kind of weigh in on that in terms of inland ports and how they're going to be developed. I know, Don, do you have any thoughts to share on that?
Yes, I do. And I think it's interesting to note that today the governor was in Cordell, Georgia, signing off an agreement that is with an inland port there. And to me, that's exciting. I haven't been involved with the port before, knowing what the growth has been in that particular area, seeing what can happen if you just put your mind to it. Augusta has an opportunity now that we do have somewhat of a highway infrastructure to Savannah. We're going to improve it even greater. And things look brighter for us to do an intermodal facility here in Augusta, Governor. And what we would be looking at doing is not competing with Cordell, but using the northeastern part of the country as well as into the Carolinas and over into Virginia and the upper part of Tennessee and Kentucky. That's an area that I think is a direct line from Savannah. Those of you who do not know, but Chicago is closer to Savannah, Georgia, than it is to Norfolk, Virginia. If you look at your map and you look at the hinterland that Savannah, Georgia can cover, is tremendous. So the opportunities are there, and I do think that I met with the mayor here several weeks ago, and I've met with Sue before, and we talked about this, and believe you me, there'll be more dialogue from my standpoint, and Governor, I'll be in your office talking to you.
So can I make a comment? Because I remember as a host of the Red Carpet Tour having a guest who was the number 2 person in charge of real estate for USAA, of course a multi-billion-dollar insurance concern that heavily invests in real estate in part of their portfolio. But they, the gentleman spent Thursday with us at the Masters and decided that, hey, let's take a look at Augusta on Saturday. And he wanted to just take an eye, face-to-face look at what we have going on at Augusta. He called me up about 6 months later, just out of the blue, said, Phil, we're looking at Augusta because it would be a perfect spot for an inland port related to what's going on in Savannah. And made that comment that that there's some investment that's being eyed on Augusta from that perspective. They have certainly the money to do some things. So I think there's opportunities there for us.
Well, I'm sorry we don't have someone for the airport today, but inland ports are more than just road and rail. Air cargo is potentially an opportunity as an inland port, and we have a tremendous airport. Our airport, and anyone else can chime in here, we have seen significant increases every year in terms of the usage of the airport. We used to have a lot of leakage to Hartsfield and to Columbia, South Carolina, but with the addition of direct flights now to DC and others, that we've really been able to grow our airport. And with some of the T-SPLOST projects, actually, we'll be able to do some expansions at the airport. They've already expanded some of their runways for certain sizes of planes, but anyone want to chime in about the airport?
Cedric's past chair, if you keep up with all that.
That's true. I'm sorry, yes, I forgot about that.
Basically, what you said, we're really just so proud of the airport and what we're able to do. And especially with the funds coming out there, it's only going to create more opportunities. And we're looking at more industry that will locate around the airport to support projects that we have coming forward.
So I can say my customers are across the country, and in the past, I've never been able to get them to come to Augusta. At best, it was to get to Atlanta and pick them up and bring them here. Nowadays, from all 4 corners of the country, our customers fly into Augusta and we pick them up here. It's been a wonderful facilitator for our business, as well as we no longer drive to Atlanta to catch a flight.
Yes, yeah. It's very nice time, yes.
One of the missions being added to Fort Gordon is about 800 people who will be assigned to cyber protection teams. And these teams will be launched worldwide by commercial air to assist any federal agency with their cybersecurity and cyber protection issues. So these are 39-person teams. There are going to be 20 of them within 3 years. That will put butts in seats at the airport as long as they can get competitive rates out of it. The other mission coming to Fort Gordon is going to have a direct link to Fort Meade, Washington, D.C. area, and will make great use of the direct point. That's critical to satisfying the needs of that mission.
Switching gears, I want to make sure that we have some folks like Jamie from more of the rural areas to talk about, when the T-SPLOST, when TO was being developed and went through several reiterations over the years legislatively, and ultimately ended up, ours was a 13-county region. I think that was all a lot for us to absorb in terms of how that would work. But when you look at the projects, and Jamie, maybe if you can share some others here from Jesse, from Burke County's perspective, how this really, all boats rise, I guess is how this will benefit our
most of the counties in CS already running all together. And just from my home county standpoint, Burke County, I think it'll have a big impact. Access to plant loading, the improvements on Highway 56 is very important. We have improvements in bypasses in several cities in the area. We are excited about it and full support. Just eager to see the project started.
The citizens of Augusta County are very excited that T-Splosh vote passed. Our mayor, Kenneth Erdrich, had a direct hand in that, and it wasn't a hardcore push prior to the election day. It was quite subtle, and his strategy worked perfectly. And we've got still 3 projects scheduled in Augusta County over the next 10 years, and 2 out of the 3 are major projects into $35 to $40 million range. The widening of State Route 17 up to the Wilkes County line, and also the addition of the western bypass around Thompson to connect it to the newly established eastern bypass, which will really help. This they have to say to people in Richmond County, but unclog the congestion of downtown Thompson. Everything's relative, and it's going to open a lot of doors for the county and the city. The county makes up in the city of Thompson, so we're very excited about it.
Any members of the delegation want to weigh in on the fact that ultimately it ended up being these regions, or thoughts on that?
I don't think it was a surprise at all, Sue, when you look at the work from our legislative delegations, both Columbia and Burke counties. This is a process that we really started talking about back in 2008. I know that Barry, Zach, Lori, and Wayne. I'm excited. I want to pick up on something that Phil said. I think Richmond County, and certainly the corridor leading into Columbia, have a tremendous opportunity to be a logistics hub. I know the governor's most recently made some appointments today with Paige, a very dear friend of mine. But when you look at all of what will take place with Vogel and certainly the corridor leading through Highway 56, there's a tremendous opportunity for us to create a logistics hub here in this region. We have not tapped into that, but moving forward, anticipate there will be some things that go along with that concern.
I know there are a lot of counties, I think the discretionary funding, is 75-25, and I think the 25% discretionary funding is going to lift up so many of our, the counties in the region for projects that they have just never been able to accomplish, which is economic development in rural areas, which I know you've mentioned several times is a competitive advantage for the entire state. James, we haven't heard from you. Thank you very much for serving on the T-SPLOST Citizens Review panel.
Well, I, as many others, know that this whole process will be a game changer for our community. However, the downside for me is just going to be 10 years before we can get it done. Seemingly, if we can find a way to do this a little faster, we all will be better off for it. The cost will be better than the course smooth to say it will serve our community better. I, for one, was very diligent to get this thing passed. I'm happy that we were successful in that, and I do know that it will transform this community from where it was to what most of us wanted to be.
Absolutely. So 10 years down the road, we won't have any trouble getting it under us, right? As long as the Georgia General is with us, we can do.
So,
Yes.
and I would just like to piggyback off of that. I did, and also let the governor know that once we did pass the T-SPLOST, my calls that I'm getting now from most of my constituents are, okay, we passed that, and I voted for the penny, now I need to get my roads fixed. And so I have the opportunity now, and I am so honored to send all those calls to Donna Grantham.
And she does.
Thank you, Don, and he handles them one by one. I appreciate it.
I think you bring up a good point, though. That 25% discretionary funds helps to fix those potholes. And for the rural areas, I think this is a great case study in regionalism as it has panned out. But there's going to be people that don't have to call Don any longer that are going to get things done.
Sanford, thoughts?
No real thoughts at this point, other than I kind of feel like James and that is that if we can make a very good effort at coordinating the pieces that go in the right direction and any possibility of things happen a little sooner than in the 10-year period. But I understand that's the process and that's what the expectation would be. But we just keep working hard to make all things come together faster and better than the first thought.
Well, I think there's a good match between a lot of these projects, as you've heard. But, from an economic development perspective, we have a lot going on. Reamer, I don't know if you want to share some of the things that we talk about as a chamber board that we are so excited about with our sectors, like our university. You want to share some?
I'll make some comments. I'm sure the governor knows our area. I hope he does. I'm sure he does, knows the state very well. But, we're well known for a lot of things. Our medical community, our university, consolidation, our industry. Sometimes when I talk to folks about Augusta and our area, they don't realize the kind of industry we have. Richmond County, Columbia County, even over in Aiken County, Bridgestone just invested $1 billion for a new tire plant across the street, across the highway from the existing tire plant. A lot of those folks live in Georgia. And so really what's good for Aiken County is good for us. Of course, we're not doing economic development for them, so don't worry about that. But we certainly are, we're just divided by this river. We work closely with North Augusta, and like most communities, and I think Augusta's maybe one of the better examples of that, of what happens when folks can work together to get things done. This T-SPLOST is just our latest obvious example, but there's a lot of small examples. So as you're looking on what you're trying to establish, you're certainly a pro-business governor. Chamber of Commerce is primarily the voice of business, so anything we can do to help you in those agendas and vice versa, we'll keep those lines of communication. We'd be glad to answer your questions you might have for us. Yeah.
So I feel like this gives the governor an opportunity to get a good picture of these first 6 months and what's happening with the T-SPLOST program. And to be able to take it back to the rest of the state with some information and support that our people have shown gives him that arm of strength to work from when people throughout the state say, I wish we had passed that. Governor, we don't need to let this happen again. So, Governor, we want you to know that we support you in your efforts and what you have done for us, and we continue to want to work very closely with you.
And Sue, just one last quick comment. And I think our goal here is we don't have pride of ownership. If anybody in the rest of the state wants to come and learn from how we were able to work together to do that here, we're more than happy to share that with them. It was interesting, Ross King from ACCG called me right after it passed here and had gotten a call from Governing Magazine in Washington, D.C. who said, well, hate to see that Georgia turned down the T-SPLOST. And Ross said, that's totally incorrect. We had 3 regions that did pass it. So he put him in touch with me and I interviewed with him. So we made national news for the 3 regions that did. But I shared the same thing nationally. I said, if anybody's trying to do this anywhere in the country, send them to us. We want to help other areas of the state, and any place else that's trying to do this. So I think this is really, thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this in this region, but we're willing to help everybody else.
Thank you all for taking time to be here today.
let me just say that I am proud of all of you. You truly have set an example for the rest of the state. And I do believe that you will have other parts of the state who will have a little bit of buyer's regret in that they did not buy into the opportunities that the TIA offered to them. You know, we are hearing in the General Assembly, and I know the General Assembly members can attest to this, all sorts of reactions to it. Some wanting to, well, let's do it again, give us another chance, give us a chance to break it down into smaller compartments of either a couple of counties together or whatever. But all of that is political discussion right now. It's really aside from the point. You are our example, and we want you to succeed, because if you succeed, it does show the merit of local citizens and local communities buying into an idea of helping themselves and being a part of a bigger plan. So I have instructed all of my folks and my agencies to do everything they can to make sure that y'all are going to be successful. And I think you will find that we will be very cooperative in that endeavor as you look as to what you want to do. As Don mentioned, I was in Cordele before I came here earlier today, and we had the signing of a memorandum of understanding from the Port Authority, the state, and a private organization that is creating the inland port in Cordele. CSX Railroad is, of course, the main supplier of the cars that will transport goods back and forth. I do believe that you have great potential here for something similar to that. We're going to make sure we get that port deepened, by the way. And any influence you have with our congressional delegation, House and Senate, to make sure that they legislatively remove at the federal level the last little remaining obstacle that we have there, and then begin the process of putting in the budget their part of the cost of that project, which was projected to be in the 60 to 70% of the overall cost. General Assembly has put aside about $231 million that we're ready to spend. And I keep saying this, that if they will just let us go ahead and spend our own money, we'll get started shoveling some dirt out of the Savannah River channel and start deepening it, and they can catch up later. Because I do think time is of the essence. If I don't know whether you saw, there's an excellent article. I don't usually commend the Atlanta Journal-Constitution for their reporting, but there was an excellent article there looking at all of the ports on the eastern seaboard and their timelines. And we are in great position. The headline was that we're behind time-wise, and the only reason we're behind time-wise is because the federal government hasn't removed the obstacles on their end. We're not behind time as far as what Georgia is doing and what Georgia is going to do. But just as an inland port in Cordele will, by the use of rail cars, take trucks off of the roads in that part of the state and facilitate both imports as well as exports out of that region of South Georgia, which is agriculturally oriented by and large. It will help the overall movement of goods, both those things coming in and those things that are going out. And you're perfectly situated to be able, as Don pointed out, to take advantage of your proximity to the rest of the eastern seaboard as well. And if you're a launching pad for that, whether it be the result of an inland port, which I think is probably the most expeditious concept perhaps that could be put in place, then I think it means that you're going to continue to grow. And I do appreciate the fact that you're having cooperation across county lines and within the region. You proved that you can make that work. We all get hung up on who's winners and who's losers and who's donors and who's recipients and all of that. But the reality is that we live in a regional world. Our state lives in regions, and most people's lives revolve around a region. I was just thinking a while ago, Richmond County is only the third county in which I've owned a home in my adult life. And I owned it when I was stationed at Fort Gordon. But you have the opportunity. I am excited about what's happening at Fort Gordon, and we have a great team in place, I think, to facilitate that. We put it in place in anticipation that we could see another BRAC round coming up in the future, but the reality is that what is happening in Washington and in the Pentagon, they're doing it without a BRAC. They're just reallocating resources, and we have some areas of concern in our state, but Fort Gordon is one of the bright shining spots in terms of, I think we will see growth, and I think we will see the economic spillover from that growth into your region. You're the primary beneficiaries of that, and that's certainly good news for everybody. So let me just touch on one thing, because y'all are kind that you didn't bring it up, so I'll just go ahead and bring it up anyway. I know that the revenue on collections is a little below the original projections. Let me share with you this. I just got through with a budget meeting with our Office of Planning and Budget and our outside experts, projectors this week. And we were looking at, as we have now rounded out 2013 fiscal year, where we came in terms of our projected revenue and actual revenue. The only portion of our projections that were less than our projections, and it was only slightly less, was in the area of sales tax, sales and use tax, slightly less. Now, there are several understandable reasons for that. It will level out because some of these things were probably more front-end loaded than others. As we abolished the birthday tax on automobile titles, there was some impact from that. As we clarified and expanded the agricultural sales tax exemptions, there will be consequences from that. And your three regions here being part of the greater agricultural regions, you will probably see more of the expansion of the sales tax exclusions for agriculture will have a more immediate and maybe even long-term impact. But the idea is that will balance itself out with other revenue that will come in as a result of granting, making them more viable and more economically sound in their agricultural activities. So that's the one area that we'd all like to see it be above projections rather than below projections, but I just didn't want you to think you were the only ones that were seeing that. The state has seen that as a whole. It was not much below our projection, but it was slightly below. The good news is, though, for the state, and I might as well go ahead and say this, is that we got some really great news, and members of the General Assembly are going to see that very soon as they start looking at our budget preparations for next year. But we're going to be significantly adding to our rainy day fund as a result of keeping our expenditures under control and allowing the growth that we have experienced to add to our protection in terms of our rainy day fund for our state, which we think is good. It's good financial planning, and we're very pleased with that. But thank you for what you do. I am very impressed with this group that is here today. I think it is representative of what is going on in your region. And I hope that you will continue that cooperative effort, and hope that you will continue your cooperative effort with us, because we want to be partners. We want you to succeed. If you don't succeed, our message is diluted significantly. So we want you to succeed. We're going to be your partner in making sure you do. Thank you all.
Good deal. Good deal. On the projections, sales tax, the lower now, is that anticipated to settle out and it's going to start going back up? Or that the projection didn't deal with that?
Well, being an accountant, you understand this probably a whole lot better than I do. I think the reality is that there is certainty about issues over which the state has no control. They are federal issues. Having been at the federal level in Congress, I am still of the opinion that until the issue of health care and where it's headed and who's going to pay for it and all of that is sorted out, we're going to have a period of uncertainty that is going to dampen the marketplace. I think we're already seeing that. The one-year extension that's just been announced for businesses to comply, that doesn't really give anybody a whole lot of certainty. I mean, it maybe gives you a little better time to prepare. You know, what were you going to prepare for? You're going to prepare to either fire people or not grow. What other preparation could you make to accommodate that? So that's not good. This uncertainty, I think, is out there. But it's hard to balance that with the fact that we're seeing our revenue grow in every other aspect of our state revenue stream, other than the sales tax.
But you seem to indicate that one of the big things, the precedent, actually, when we took sales tax off of things, but you know, it would be sales tax. Now I'm just kind of wondering if the expansion of those other things would eventually, projection-wise, start to make up for that gap.
I think it will, yeah, and that was obviously the purpose. I mean, you don't make budgets in a vacuum. You have to compensate for it. If you're gonna show a reduction in revenue here, is your overall pie going to grow as a result of those reductions? And we do think so. We think that there's strategic reductions, specifically the removal of sales tax on energy for manufacturing. You know, that is strategically done. We know it's going to cause us to take a hit from that sales tax, but it will encourage manufacturers to come here, the ones who are here, to grow. That Georgia's a good state in which to manufacture. And that is a huge change of direction for our state. It is bringing manufacturing back to our state. We had two big announcements, just like Deke mentioned about Starbucks. I think they came in part probably in anticipation that we were going to take the sales tax off of energy used in manufacturing, which they're qualified for, as well as prospects of the T-Splosh passing. Caterpillar made no bones about it when they came, that was one of the things they anticipated we were going to take the sales tax off of energy. The Baxter facility in the Covington area off of I-20, they made no bones about it, that was a major concern for them. More recently, the announcement by Bob Shaw with Engineered Floors up in northwest Georgia to build 2 new plants, which will be about 2,800 jobs in a region of our state that has had, I guess, the highest aggregate unemployment rate of any part of our state. He made no bones about it. That was absolute make or break, whether he went to Tennessee or whether he came to Georgia with those 2 new plants. So, yes, in the short term, we're losing those things that we're taking the sales tax off of. But if they produce jobs, then we will see not only the sales tax from those workers increasing, but we will see the income tax that we collect from those workers as well. But you know, there is an interesting little tidbit in all of this. As all of us in the General Assembly and elected office approach an election year next year, I have cautioned everybody, let's don't be too eager to talk about additional tax cuts. We need to stabilize the fund, and we need to see exactly where we are. By the most recent surveys, Georgia has, as a state, the lowest tax burden on its citizens of any state in the nation. And we have an individual income tax. You say, well, how is that possible when we're compared with states that don't have an individual income tax? They make up for it in other areas. And when they make up for it in the aggregate, their burden is greater than our burden is. So
most businesses will tell you, even though we have a corporate income tax, in the overall scheme of things, Georgia is a good place to do business, it's a good place to live, and, we don't need to let folks get too politically motivated on some issues, and in that regard, I have asked the members of the General Assembly if they would, to submit any tax changes to the competitiveness initiative, which we've now statutorily created. I did it by executive order when I first became governor. A group of business people, let them look at these proposals, let them study it, determine what cost-benefit analysis will be produced from them, so that we don't find ourselves caught in a political whirlwind. And, it's pretty hard sometimes to argue against cutting taxes unless you ask the second question, well, what are you going to cut in spending? We spend most of our money in two big areas. Education is by far the biggest, and the second is healthcare. Now, how many of you are willing to make cuts in those two big expenditure areas? Most of them will say they're not willing to do that because they know the consequences that come from it. So, I'm asking, and I think the General Assembly has been more than cooperative in us taking a very logical view of where we go with changes in our tax laws.
Thank you.
Anything else? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.